that we have here, I don't think he's a favorite for a lot of vendors because he's not afraid to peek behind the curtains and check out, do they really talk the talk and walk the walk of how they say they're secure. So he's a co-founder of Badrap, a security researcher who will tell us about the lessons learned from checking 3,000 vendors from 200 companies. So I'm sure there will be a lot of interesting and fun stories, examples, some actionable tips as well have been promised. So maybe some tips how you can also check your supply chain integrity. So I think you're getting, again, here ready for good laughs and maybe some surprises on the way. Please welcome Jani Kenttälä. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank all the arrangers and the people over here. It has been a very wonderful conference so far. I lost part of my voice because I've been talking so much to you all. So let's give a hand to ourselves and the arrangers for a great job. Okay, you mentioned that I'm not a favorite for many vendors. I don't like things to be that way. It would be wonderful if we could turn something like giving bad news to vendors, if we could turn it to something positive. So this presentation is a story about how the Finnish government sponsored vendor supply chain checks for 150 companies and what we learned from that. And basically it's about bringing bad news to vendors. You have an issue when they didn't ask us to do so. So, every once in a while you see these blue and white style slides. These are loaned from the public report of Traficom. I will explain the scenario in a second. But the main point is it all started with them sponsoring this check to 150 Finnish critical infrastructure companies. And they ended up naming 2,300 vendors. Ever since, that number has grown a little bit, but the lessons learned have actually not changed. A few words about myself. So I'm basically these days I'm jack of all trades. I have a technical background. I started off as a security researcher, but once I became an entrepreneur, I have done basically anything related to running a cybersecurity company, from those deliveries to sales and marketing and stuff like that. So I'm slightly too abstract these days, but this is something I was very much involved in. Why you might be interested? Well, do you need hope? In cybersecurity, things look bad quite often. Last presentation, we were thinking about shocking results. And our mindset can be focusing on the things that are broken and stuff like that. So I'm trying to bring a slightly different angle today. There is hope. Maybe you want to know that what if you would check your own vendors, or what's the likelihood how they would behave. Maybe you have seen when buying something from the vendors, doing contracts, everybody takes cybersecurity seriously on paper. What would be the actual thing that they do? Maybe you want to do this yourself, so there will be some do-it-yourself instructions. Maybe you are a vendor for someone. Maybe you get already these kind of reports. Maybe you suffer for vulnerability scanner spam. You know, you have like 150 issues, and from those 150, when you truly go through them, maybe one is a real one. So maybe you wanna learn how to distinguish the things that you need to do instead of even being scammed, or at least if you are facing a denial of service from these kind of reports. And maybe, hopefully, there are someone from the government. The message of hope is also for you. You don't need to be watching how things are bad in your country. You don't need to be worrying that why nobody is doing something. There are actually practical ways to help companies and to inspire them to do cyber better ways. So the Finnish collaboration, it has, I'm proud to be a Finn in a sense that in cyberspace, Finnish collaboration with the critical infra companies, with the cybersecurity companies, that has had a ripple effect to the world also. Many different ways. This is just one of them. So how it works in Finland, we have something special. We have a National Emergency Supply Agency. It was formed around 19th. The idea was that if there's a crisis, we need to have enough oil, we need to have enough wheat, food, things like that. At some point of time, we realized that, hey, internet and the services on the internet are actually also critical, and we cannot store them in caves. They just need to be running. So that's an area we need to pay attention. So they have been funding this National Cybersecurity Center in Finland, and they have done practical things to secure the Finnish critical infrastructure. And in this particular campaign, they sponsored the supply chain check for 150 companies, and that ended up for helping or checking 2,300 vendors. And these were global. So surprise, surprise, Finnish critical infra companies have also global vendors. So there was an effect. Everybody asks that when you start reporting to your vendors their issues, will they get mad? What did you do? Is this legal? And things like this. Well, the overwhelming experience, the worst reaction from vendors we got was silence. So that was the worst. So most are thankful, as we saw in the previous presentation. And the best ones, they take pride. They brag on the internet that we have fixed our vulnerabilities and thank the people who reported them. So in this campaign, a number of companies or vendors with mature processes, they were thanking the campaign members, they were thanking the NCSCFI, and were telling their customers that we take these things seriously. So these are the best of the best. How many of you have already started thinking about we need to be checking vendors, or we need to, there's NIS2 coming in here as well, and there's regulation to do vendor risk assessment. So how many are currently wondering that how to do it? Only a few hands. Yeah, a little bit more? Yeah. Let's ask 6 months from now and see how many hands, or next time. Okay, you might be facing this question. So how to do it? What do we have currently? What could we do? So I divide these different ways to do it. There are ways to do it easily. There are ways that are laborious. Then there are ways to do it so that we check the symptoms and assess the risks based on the symptoms. And there are ways to actually make improvements on our supply chain. So one very easy way to do it is just to buy vendor risk scores. So there are services, you can go give them some money and they will tell that we have scanned them and here's the risk score. Very easy. Unfortunately, just looking at those scores, not communicating to the vendors, it really doesn't change anything. You just can either accept the risk or not accept the risk, but that's it. So, but that's also the part that makes it easy. Then if you want to actually start pushing for improvements, the usual way is that you impose requirements in the contracting phase. You maybe ask questions how you are doing this. And now we are getting some improvements. But the problem is that you cannot do that with everyone. So there are lots of SaaS services, you just show your credit card and stuff like that, so that's a little bit problematic. And there's another problem that vendor might think that everything is great, but it's not. So answering stuff on paper, you might need to still, it could be different in reality. Well, then you can do audits. Now it's even a little bit more laborious. You can do this only for a handful of your vendors. But now you are getting actual practical results, checking how they are doing, and pushing for fixes. So this is great, but it's very laborious. So the challenge from the Finnish government was that isn't there really anything that could scale to large numbers, but still have some improvements. So this approach was developed based on this challenge. And here it how it goes. So ketjutonttu is a Finnish word. Tonttu means Santa's little helper. So everybody knows Santa Claus is from Finland, not from the North Pole. And ketju means chain, so it's kind of like was Santa's little helpers for the supply chain. And this is how it goes. So number one, when somebody participates in this campaign, we help them to identify their vendors. They ask questions like, who should we name? Do we only name the SaaS service providers? How about our telcos? How about insurance company, banks, stuff like that? We say that anyone who somehow has access to information about you. Then when that's done, now automation kicks in and starts digging for different vulnerabilities. I will talk about that in a moment, that how it's done and what kind of vulnerabilities. So in this case, there were like 330 vendors who had fairly easy to find vulnerabilities. But some of them had like many issues, so it was like 856 issues that we reported. And now comes the important part. You need to be reporting those. So everybody has vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities come and go. It's, from my perspective, it's more important how do they behave once they become aware that they are vulnerabilities. What happened? Maybe we get the screen back. We ended up helping the vendors via email exchange typically. We ended up exchanging a little bit over 1,000 messages. There we go, thank you. And then there was also every participant could run the same checks for themselves. So this was basically what was done. So do you want to do this by yourself? First of all, you need to figure out who are your vendors. If you are lucky, your company is already tracking your vendors. You have a readily made list. Then it can be easily that the list is too big already and you need to prioritize. If you don't have that list, you can go around, ask from the procurement what we have, who are our vendors, go to different departments, talk to your colleagues, what do they know. You can poll people. From the technical side, you can list your own domains that you are using. You can look at the DNS records, who have we authorized to act on our behalf. Microsoft is allowed to send email by using our name, things like that. And then you can do external attack surface mapping. There's lots of tools for that. So you can check what you have, like what kind of things are visible about you in the internet. So now you have your vendor list. Then you do like an external attack surface mapping. So the things that some marketing dollars have already suggested that you should be doing to yourself, and actually not only marketing dollars, NIS2, for example, requires this. Now you just do it for your vendors. And there are plenty of tools. If you want to go the open source route, there are like subfinders and AMAs and things that you can use. But be careful. We'll talk about that in a moment. You can find subdomains from certificate transparency logs. Maybe you have access to some passive DNS services, so on and so forth. Now, let's talk about finding the vulnerabilities. So in this method, the idea was to find issues that you can go and find without asking a permission. So we did a couple of design choices. Like, for example, we can go and look for exposed services. Are there any exposed databases? Maybe somebody has heard there was a terrible incident in Finland when this psychology center lost all their patient data because they had exposed their database to the internet. So you can go on things like this. Where we draw the line is that when, for example, we find a database which is exposed, we didn't try to log in and see what kind of data there is. It's like 99% of the time, it's an accident already, an issue already that the database is exposed, so we stop there and go to the reporting phase. You can find, we found like servers which were older than my teenage daughters, so they are like end of life already. There's no way that they get security patches anymore. one thing why we did that was that usually the vulnerability scanners, the main reason they produce false positives is that they just look at the version numbers, and it's not so easy. Linux distributions fix the issues, but they don't necessarily change the version numbers, so you get lots of false positives. But if it's a Windows 2012 platform, then you can be pretty sure that no security patches are available anymore. So what did we see? 1 out of 7 vendors had these pretty easy to find vulnerabilities. And that's actually quite a large number if you consider that we just handpicked issues that we can be pretty sure that is a vulnerability. No, this doesn't include any kind of just accepting any sort of vulnerability scanner result or things like this are handpicked, and we are pretty sure where we can be sure that this is an issue, but then it's a limited number of things that we are looking at. So still 1 out of 7 had issues. Now from that group, we divided the vendors to A, B, and C. So A group does an excellent job. They fix issues quickly, communicate clearly. B group, they take things seriously, but the fixing takes time. Then the C group, they do not respond at all. That's fine, but at least fix the issues. When they do not respond, they don't fix the issues, or they give some very weird explanation. Like very often we got this explanation that, yeah, we have this database exposed, but it's okay because we are not using it anymore. And then we talked that, okay, but maybe you used it, maybe there's some important data in it. If they still don't fix it, they get to the category C. A couple of stories about each category. So the A category, what I love, they were these relentless hunters. So large organizations typically had trouble finding the owner of the services, and they had trouble then fixing it. But some went like way more beyond what is expected from them. Like, for example, one vendor, they couldn't find who is the actual owner of the system, so they went to the financial department that, okay, who is paying the bills for this like server space provider? Can we find the owner from that way? No, that didn't help. Then, hey, we have that old ticketing system. Maybe there are some referrals to that server on that ticketing system, and that's where the win came from. So there was this old ticketing system, somebody had set up the server, and unlike in one of the previous presentations, there was also a person who had left the job, but luckily he had a peer who knew about the service. So really this going out their way to fix the issues. On the B category, quite often, 2 problems. Large organization cannot find the owner of the system, or they have forgotten to do the life cycle planning. They have built something on top of some very old operating system. Now the only fix is to move that system to a more modern one, and that doesn't happen quickly. On the C category, bug bounties have done a lot of good to information security. I already mentioned from the C category those exposed database companies. One thing I was surprised to find is that sometimes when we report this, the vendor requires us to report it through a bug bounty program. And those programs are set up so that usually there is someone doing the triage before they forward the information to relevant people. And we were facing this problem that they are paying money, so they demand demonstration of the issue. And we didn't want to do the demonstration because we were not interested about the bounties. We wanted to report these issues to as many as possible. We could send 50 reports at the same time that we would have to spend for proof of concept. And we already saw in this campaign that those issues were in practice exploited. So we tried to talk to the triage people that we don't need the money, forget the money, just put this report forward to the persons who need to know. And approximately 50% of the time, the report was left there standing on the desk of the triage person, who is even maybe not part of the company. It's just from the bug bounty program services. 50% of the time it was forwarded and then the issues got fixed. So very sad to see that sometimes running a bug bounty program with not clear instructions, you might end up to category C. That's slightly sad. Impact. There's actually a bunch of cybersecurity companies in Finland. Some of them are in quite north, near the Santa Claus. One thing is common for these Finnish companies is that they try to be a little bit different. Not because of being different, but they have some insane obsessions. Like my personal obsession, for example, is impact. Usually cybersecurity companies are optimized for making profit. When cybersecurity people found companies, it can be that they optimize for the impact and then they just wish very much that it will turn into profit also. So if you want impact yourself, 7% of the organizations were having the security TXT file, which is a pretty standard way of informing to outsiders that how do we want to have a report. So that's not a huge number. So quite a few don't have a systematic process. Some of them they don't have it, but they still have the systematic process. But let's say 10% has a process for this. So other 90% of the cases, people will think that you are a big bounty hunter trying to scam them. It's a salesperson trying to get a sales meeting, and they try to sell their tools. You're some sort of scammer or somehow not important. So if you actually want impact, you need to put effort to the report. And here, if you are going to report, here are some tips for you how to do it. If you are receiving reports, here are some tips that how you can start distinguishing that which reports are more like a scam and which reports are valid. So even if, tip number one, even if you use templates and automation, have a hint of human in the report. So what we do is there's a person sending the report and the person write the personal opinions and notes to the beginning of the report. Then explain why they are getting it, of course. But then the most important thing, give all the information immediately. Don't try to hide it. This will give the opportunity to anyone who gets the report to check that, is this a scam or not. They can go and check that, do they have that vulnerability. Then be available for questions. Quite often, the vulnerabilities were fixed only when the vendor was able to say that, no, we don't have this issue. Then we say that, oh, but we think you do. Here's some proof. And then but no, we don't. And then we think that maybe it was a honeypot or something like that. But in the last email, turns out that, oh, we actually made a mistake. We thought that this is exposed only to our internal side, but it was exposed after all to the external side as well. So be available for questions. Secret. I'm probably nobody's watching the stream, right? So one secret in the industry is that everybody thinks that dealing with humans is hard. So everybody wants to build pure automation so that nobody needs to be dealing with humans. So once we started human-to-human communication in these campaigns, it's not that big deal. 95% of the cases, it's just reminding that you have an issue. It's responding to a couple of emails. It's really a small portion, and you will get a significant change in the results. I would guesstimate that if you just throw the report out there, 10% of the time it will get fixed. With this approach, 2 out of 3 cases, the problems got fixed. So really pay attention and be helpful towards your vendors. And if you do it like that, they will appreciate it. Lessons learned, there is hope. Lots of vendors actually do fix the issues. It's just, do we stare at the ones that don't, or do we look at those who do? Being helpful pays off. You get much better results. You get this positive thing going on. You will get thanked by your vendors, and you can leverage that to build more trust and be able to collaborate together even more. So I hope that you will all start checking your vendors in practice. make it a business issue for them, that it makes sense to do cyber well, because as long as it's done just on paper, there's no real incentive, and only the ones who really care will do it. But if you start checking all your vendors, all the business people start thinking that it makes sense. So, I'm free for questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Jani. So once more, let's begin from the questions from the audience here, live. Any hands? Yep, we have there at the very end.
Just a moment.
In the dark, making it even harder to see.
Hello, thank you for good presentation. One question from my side. I understand that in Finland and in other countries, public organizations, government companies, they cannot choose what vendor they want. They need to do this RFI, RFP, and then who is bidding and exactly offering the best price. So what would be your recommendation? Because imagine if you will eliminate somebody because of some security checks, you can go to court and say you are just do not allowing me to do business and etc. So is enterprise, it's okay, but what would be your recommendations for government sector?
Excellent. Thank you. Excellent question. I think you could put in the procurement phase, I think you could put different requirements for the vendors. For example, that the vendor needs to be able to react to vulnerabilities. They need to have like a way to report vulnerabilities. And I don't know, you might even be able to put there in that they will be run this check and it will be part of the acceptance process. I'm sure that you cannot do based on the historical information maybe, but maybe you can put to the requirements that what will happen next and what we will be checking before we will be accepting you as a vendor.
Perfect. One more question here in the front.
Yes, I do have a question associated with vendor identification. How do you identify vendors, either by legal name, by brand name? Does it matter? And maybe a bit to the background, like I guess it might be very different if you are having consultancy contract with Accenture, yeah? If it's from Spain, Latvia, Venezuela, so.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. So how do we accept? We try to find the legal name. So the participants or customers, they name the vendors. Sometimes they use the product name. Sometimes they use the old name, but the company was already acquired and stuff like that. So whenever a new vendor gets into our lists, we go and do a little background check and see what's the legal names and stuff like that. And then when it comes to a consultancy, if it's a big consultancy company, they usually have like centralized way of dealing with certain incidents and vulnerabilities. So as this approach, it's not focusing so much on which exact vulnerability they had, but what's the capability of the organization to start dealing with cyber issues. So getting to know that process will provide you some insight that what if your specific consultants would like leak information, would have a problem with their back-end systems or stuff like that. What's the capability of the organization to start dealing with it systematically?
Any more questions from the audience? If not, we have a few online as well. Did you find any correlation with the size of the vendor and how they responded to your disclosure? Because many large vendors have like a SOC report. They would just point you to that if there are any.
Yes, good question. So size didn't actually, only thing that the size matters was that there's more problematic for them to find who's the owner. But yes, we did have, for example, these SOC services. We have like a couple of vendors who have a saying that these bug reports go to the SOC service to die. So basically, quite often when we hear that, thank you for this report, we take this very serious and we have forwarded this to our centralized SOC service, we never hear from them again. So some peculiarities like this, yes.
And another question, and I said, how far in dependencies should you go? Did you go and check? In most cases, there are dependencies that are dependent on other dependencies, and those are la la la.
Yeah. The automation brings in some of the dependencies. So what ended up happening that we had to help actually the vendor to talk to their vendor. So quite often they were small companies, they had acquired some service, they don't know anything about cybersecurity, so we sent a report and they go, oh, don't understand. And we said that, okay, this actually looks like this is your service provider, hook us up with the service provider and we will help them to fix the issue. So that's how it, so we did have some recursion, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then a final question. Do you operate in Czech companies only in Finland or also outside?
Outside also, definitely.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you so much. The last time to ask an on-site question. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Thank you so much. You've earned yourself a nice CyberChess Talks as well.
Thank you very much.
Hope to see you next year here as well.
Thank you.
And have some fun stories to share as well.